Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and welcome to tonight's episode of Talking Points. It has been quite some time since we met, but here we are. Today, I can't say in our studios, but we have with us Dr. Kanan Purakayastha. He is a chartered scientist, an environmentalist, educationist. He has studied in different countries like Japan, Thailand, Sweden, Britain, and Bangladesh. Dr. Kanan is a scientific advisor and lead officer for UK government. He has attended several conferences, international conferences on environment, and was also the leader at one of the conferences where Vice President US Al Gore was the chairperson. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kanan. How are you today?
Yes, fine. Thank you for having me.
Well, we can see each other, but we can't touch each other in the
Yes.
circumstances.
Yeah.
Well, today is also the World Environment Day, 5th of June. And who better to talk about it than Dr. Kanan? So we will go to that, but we have a lot of things on our plate today. Coronavirus and biodiversity, coronavirus and nature, and extreme events like cyclones and climate change over the last several hundred years or several thousand years. And of course, we will talk about the World Environment Day.
There, yes.
So, where do we begin? Would you like to talk about COVID-19 and its origins, symptoms, how to avoid, and precautions? Where did it begin?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of discussion about its origins.
Yes, this COVID-19 is now affected all of us, and it become a pandemic. Because it's globally now transmitted. Now, if we rely on the World Health Organization's statement,
Right.
Then we have to say that according to WHO, the 31st of December 2019, that China first reported it as a cluster of some cases of pneumonia in Wuhan, Hubei province, and eventually they identified it as a novel coronavirus.
Right.
And in that way, 12 January, China actually submitted, they actually shared the genetic sequence of this COVID-19. So that was useful for the scientists around the world.
They shared it with the WHO.
Yes. And then 14th of January, who actually technical lead, they actually issued a press statement saying that there is a limited human to human transmissions happen. And they said it's a 41 confirmed cases. And 22nd of January, China also issued a statement about human to human transmissions. Right. Now, I have actually come across another research paper published more or less the same time in January, 25th of January, in the Lancet, where they also published a paper quickly about these 41 cases related, and some of the cases outside one province. So that raised some question to the researcher that is it from one only or some other places.
Right.
Then we have found, these Guardians, some of the reporting from their local journalists, they also published. And they said it's actually started from the Wuhan seafood market, that one of the, but the Australian researchers, they said generally this virus, this coronavirus is available in the bat. So on that market, there is no bat. So how this came to that market? And then it's, they're saying that it's actually moved from bat to pangolin, a type of animal which is actually banned in China for killing, but it is approved in China for using uh, medicine, medicinal purpose. So pharmaceutical company in China can kill it and they can use it for the medicinal purpose. You know, so that means for it can treat blood circulations, and I myself has got a problem on blood circulation, so so that can be helpful as a medicine
But you have
according
not used
to
it, have you?
the Chinese pharmaceutical company, and and that is one of the way probably it is transmitted from animal to humans. So that is the background. Now,
Sorry,
if we go back to last
is there
2,000
any,
years of the history of these
Dr.
sort of
Kanan,
pandemic diseases,
Dr.
we'll
Kanan,
be able to see that 130, I think 131 AD, we'll see this sort of case. We've seen the plague, 5 million people dead in Asia Minor. If we look at the 541 to 542 AD, we see 25 million people dead for the bubonic plague, and at that time, the half of the population in Europe dead. And then, if we look at the 1346 to 1353, we see the Black Death, and that Black Death, and it's also bubonic plague. Europe, Africa, Asia, and moved from one place to another. And the history is suggesting that sheep move from one place to another, and the rat and fleas they moved through ships, and this disease transmitted.
right.
And
But
yeah, yeah,
today we have far more faster means of transport. A plane
yeah,
carrying 350 persons can move from China to
yeah,
America, see, in hours. And so
yeah,
the virus can be transferred very easily.
yeah, yeah. Yes, virus can transmit easily, and generally, coronavirus. There are many coronavirus is available already, is existing in the nature, but
What
they are
is
very
your
happy.
study? What is your study? Is it a natural virus or is it a man-made virus? Because there was a study I read by an Italian scientist, and he
Yeah,
suggests that had it been a natural virus, it would only survive either in cold climate or hot climate. But right now, this COVID-19 is surviving and spreading to all kinds of climates.
yeah, yeah. So that was not yet substantiated. I have seen this,
Yeah.
but that news is not substantiated by anybody yet. There is a possibility because there are a lot of microbiological laboratory around the world where it is possible this sort of virus available. Our Cambridge laboratory, they have done the sequential analysis of this virus, the DNA.
Right.
And but but this sort of virus already available in our nature, and animals to animals, they are already moving one species to another species. They found this virus also the interspecies transmission as well.
Right.
Some tigers in New York, they found this virus there. So virus can move from one animal species to another animal species, and it can jump from animal to human. And according to this United Nations Environment Program, this year, they are saying that the transmission, the main reason for the transmission of this virus is the lack of the biodiversity. Because of the lack of biodiversity, we are destructing a lot of the different species. So they are getting opportunity. They are looking for opportunity to jump from the other species to human species. So there is a likelihood there as well.
Like
So
dogs
that's
have
I can
fleas. Like dogs have fleas and humans don't, but humans do have fleas too.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And but obviously the transmission of this virus depends on many factors, and is actually they have found the certain range of humidity, like between 40 to 80% relative humidity, the
Right.
virus transmission is low, between 40 and 80%, humidity. The transmission is low. But this virus, we know virus, but this virus also can move via aerosol particle as well. That
Right.
is already found in Italy. Yeah,
Now, these coronavirus and nature, how does it
yeah,
impact nature and how nature can impact the virus?
yeah. That's the thing actually, because the virus can stay in the nature, because it's a kind of it's a species. It needs some living organism.
Right.
So that particular virus need a living things where it can, it is this coronavirus. Sometimes people say it is like Napoleon Bonaparte in Europe. You know, is going from one country to another. Like,
Right.
this virus can go to the cell,
But
a living cell.
Like Napoleon met Waterloo, so we hope that
Yeah.
coronavirus will also meet its Waterloo.
Yeah, so that is people sometimes saying, this sort of analogy, so we have disturbed our nature, and as a result of that, from nature it is coming out. It is very happy in some other species in nature, like bat. They found a lot of coronavirus in bat. There are 12 12 types of coronavirus already found before in different places. And like SARS in 2003, it is also a type of coronavirus. SARS virus. It's a coronavirus. And that's the reason this coronavirus, they said SARS-CoV-2. They put a
Right.
number there
Right.
because there are several
Is this what
SARS
they call
available.
mutation? That it can mutate? Is this what it is?
Yes, yes,
That it can change?
yes, yes. Because it's a kind of RNA, because it's not like a bacteria, because bacteria is itself a single cell,
Right.
but this one is like a RNA, DNA, this RNA type, and then it needs a cell. As soon as it goes to the cell, then it try to invade this cell and try to multiply it and start multiplication of this cell, and it's becoming thousands, millions, and then affecting your blood oxygen level. Blood oxygen level is going down, 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 and then this respiratory problem started. And some of the protein, some of the discussion probably you have seen already in a scientific journal and different places, people who has got a high level of ACE2 protein, because some people have got a ACE2 type protein in their body, and if they've got a high level of protein in their body, then that virus can easily locked up with that protein. It's that's a lock, lock with this protein,
Yep. Yes.
and then it can stay there a long time. And that's the reason people who has got a diabetic or corona, the heart disease, those sort of patient, or they have got a high level of SE2 protein in their body. Even those who take a lot of smoking, they have got a high level of SU2 protein. This is a research done by University of British Columbia.
Is that what you are talking about? Low level of immunity.
Yeah.
Is that low level of immunity, that
Yes.
high level of
Yes.
SE
Yes.
protein?
Yes. Yes. This SU2 protein also, it is actually they have found in a research in the University of British Columbia that if this SU2 protein is higher in the body, and most of these ethnic
Right.
groups, they have found this level of protein is high in their body, SE2 protein. That is probably because of food, lifestyles, and several other diseases that actually instigate the development of this protein inside the body. And that protein is very good for the coronavirus, because coronavirus can make a nice friendship with this sort of SE2 protein and then locked up, and then it starts multiplicating, and then it takes long time to remove from from this bloodstream this virus, and that is the problem. It's a big problem, So a lot of drug discovery is going on. They're trying to find out how they can split up this coronavirus from this protein in the body. So that is one way of looking at the discovery. They are trying to find out. Different countries trying this. Some people are using the existing therapy and existing drugs and trying to use it, whether it can be some country using the drug that was used for Ebola. So so this sort of research going on, but it actually takes 12 to 18 months to complete this sort of thing. One of my essay, I have already mentioned that there are several stages need to go through, first of all, because first of all, when they develop a vaccine, they need to try it in some sort of animals, and then they need to try it to humans for different stages. The phase 1 stage is to see whether it is creating any side effect or not.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kanan. On that very hopeful note, we'll go and take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about into detail about the suggestions that you are making in your paper. Thank you very much for being with us. We need to take a short break, and we'll be back after this soon. Thank you. Welcome back.
Yes, yeah.
Just before the break, we were talking to Dr. Kanan about the various researches that have gone into the origin and how coronavirus impacts on human beings and other living beings. Dr. Kanan, you were talking about your research paper in which you have described, and you were talking about the four points. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, actually, this vaccine development that is going on in Oxford and some other places, the main thing is they need to find out actually whether there is any side effects in the human, and whether they can use it in larger populations, and also they have to see that the manufacturing side of these things, and they start always from the animal testing.
Guinea pigs.
So there are 5-6 stages they need to go, and it takes 12 to 18 months to complete these sort of things. So I think this vaccine will come in due course, definitely come, but we need to think about our planet, our biodiversity very carefully, because otherwise we'll face another virus in due course, because there are a lot of viruses are around our nature, and they are good for nature, but some of them are not good for us. But they are very happy within this natural environment. They are moving from one species to another, and they are living there very happily. So we should not disturb their what we call their habitat. So, but what is going on around the world last 50 or 100 years or so, there are 5 drivers that are mainly responsible for the loss of biodiversity. That has been identified by Intergovernmental Panels on Climate Change, the IPCC. They found the one is the land use change, and which is actually the driving the deforestations and destroying the natural habitat. You know,
Right,
even
yep.
just one statistic, just for 1 year, say 2017, 15 million hectare of forest is destruction happened on 2017, and that happened. That means a lot of natural habitat also gone, also disturbed. They are probably moving from one place to another or dying.
Right.
You know,
But isn't that
so that is,
because, Dr. Kanan, isn't that because
yeah,
the world population is increasing? We need to build
yeah,
houses, we need to grow food, we need to
yeah,
cut down trees, we need roads,
yeah, yeah,
hospitals, schools in that area. So that is
yeah.
a catch-22 situation.
Yes,
You have more
yeah.
population, more deforestation.
Yes, that is also already identified, you know. So with this land use change, the other thing is over exploitation of plants and animals. There is also, you know, population growth is related phenomena, and the climate emergency is another things, because extreme weather is destroying a lot of habitats, you know, and it is also driving the habitat loss, and the pollution also affecting the environment, and also habitat loss, you know. A lot of pollutant is destroying species, the biological species in the environment, and also another things is happening is the invasive alien species. These are also you know, a driver for the biodiversity loss, you know. And but some other peoples, some other scientists, they are identify slightly different way, but the same thing more or less. But they say this biodiversity, the destruction of biodiversity, they call it hippo. Hippo means HIPPO. This is also I mentioned in my paper, that where H is the habitat destruction, I is invasive species that attack crops and natives, you know, these vegetables, that including microbes as well, this I, and then P is the pollution from the human activity, that is also hippo. As for example, very simple example, so we use perchloroethylene for washing our clothes, but if we can manage this perchloroethylene solvent in our drying machines on other places, dryer, and you know, then this perchloroethylene solvent is releasing in the atmosphere, and it is causing pollutions. And another P, they said population growth, and O is the over
Right.
exploitation. So hippo is another thing. So this is the way the biodiversity is affecting. And we can think of our Prince of Wales, who
Right.
said, you know, in a conference several months ago, that humanity is less than humanity without the whole of creation. So there is a
Right.
very,
Right.
you know, the
Right. Right.
important, you know, things. So we need to do something that we are not disturbing the biodiversity, because we have got a lot of populations, but you know, NASA has done some survey, the whole globe survey, and they have found we have got 900 million hectare of land we have available, where we can do, you know, reforestations without affecting our agricultural land and affecting our, you know, human habitat.
But
900 million.
who owns that 900 million hectares? Who owns that?
Total 900, yeah, total 900 million
All over the
hectares of
world.
land available all over the world for reforestations. So it is possible if we can plan accordingly, because you know this ecologist Edward Wilson, who is a Harvard ecologist, he also mentioned that whatever we do, we should leave half of this earth for our biodiversity. The half earth. It's called half earth plan. It does not mean that we have to divide earth into two
Right.
and put half.
No.
Rather, within the whole,
overall,
overall, the land mass, we have to leave half of this earth for our biodiversity. That is we have to do.
Dr. Kanan, there is a lot of talk about such things all the time, all the year round. Even today, as you said, is the World Environment Day. See. But have we achieved something towards that? See, because we know that in about 80 years' time, the sea level will go up so high that half of Bangladesh will disappear. Are we doing something about these things? See, we have conferences, we have papers, and then this international conferences are held. People come and they go happy, but have we achieved something out of that? Practical achievements.
That is the lack of political will. Definitely, I have to say, because one of the things is, say this COP26.
Right.
It should be held this year, but is now moved to next year, November 2021. COP26 will be held in UK in Glasgow, 2021. Now, the last year, in COP25, the different countries around the world, they come up with their nationally determined contribution, which is called NDC. That means nationally determined contribution for the reduction of the emission.
Right.
That means everybody said, okay, we will do this, we will do that, we will come up with. But what actually they have committed to date, that will not enough to reach our target of less than 2 degrees, the temperature rise, to stop temperature rise beyond 2 degrees. What they have committed to date, that will give us the temperature 3.7 degrees centigrade.
Right.
Rise. So 3.7 degrees centigrade temperature rise by 2021 means when we go out, we will actually breathe hot air. So we will not be able to go out. So that is the situation. Now, one of the main objectives of this COP26 was to come up with another new, the contributions, new NDC. So that is every nationally determined contribution, a new one, because so far,
What is this contribution? Is it in monetary terms, this contribution, or
there are two
contribution of knowledge?
Here. Two things here. One is the emission contribution. That means the net emission. As for example, Britain declared that by 2030 they will go for the 50% emission.
Right.
Emission of carbon dioxide to atmosphere, and then by 2050 they have committed the net zero emission. So that means there is no emission. That means there is no carbon dioxide emission to the atmosphere, net zero. There is emission, but net emission should be zero. That is the Britain contribution. So at this moment, 70 countries committed, but a lot of other countries, they have not yet committed for this. And another contribution is monetary contributions.
Right.
And that is under Warsaw. That is a Warsaw mechanism, which is called the Warsaw mechanism. That was agreed in 2015, the Paris climate. But the modality of this Warsaw mechanism for this carbon trading, carbon offsetting has not yet finalized. And that was another objective for COP26 for this year, but this year it will not happen. Now it is next year. We had meeting couple of days ago. This Al Gore in USA, and I also participated in that meeting from my room. And one of the things Al Gore also mentioned that if we can come up with some sort of soil carbon trading related any target, then all farmers around the world would be benefited. That means soil carbon, the carbon in soil is going down because of global warming. And as a result of that, soil productivity is decreasing.
Right.
So therefore, we need carbon in the soil. Because if we look at this Amazonian forest 2000 years ago, people use biochar. They use biochar in their soil, and they using this biochar, they increase the soil productivity.
Right.
So the increasing soil productivity, that practice was there in Aboriginal the people. Now, because of this global warming, lot of carbon is releasing from soil to the atmosphere as a greenhouse gas. So, because it is releasing, so each of the farmer in different countries around the world, if they could get some benefit, carbon offsetting, that means the people who are actually responsible for this global warming, if they can.
Is that the reason you had told me that carbon is good for life?
Yes, because you need carbon. Without carbon, but you need carbon in a certain form, in a particular media. That means soil needs carbon. But in air we don't need carbon. So we want to reduce carbon from air, from the atmosphere.
Right.
But we want that carbon in soil because we want to see carbon there. So there are a lot of research going on how we can use bacteria to, you see, virus become enemy, but bacteria, a lot of the useful bacteria in our body, and we use bacteria a lot of, yogurt bacteria. Even people are trying to use E. coli. E. coli, this bacteria, Escherichia coli, that bacteria, they are trying to use this bacteria to develop biofuel using this bacteria. They can, converting the carbon dioxide in atmosphere to a biological fuel as a propane, and that propane can be used for the transmutations and other places. And at this moment, a lot of research going on about this, and only the problem is if you give bacteria some sugar and some carbon dioxide, bacteria quickly eat sugar instead of carbon dioxide. So there is a competition going on with this. So what they did, scientists, they used some sort of DNA as modified E. coli bacteria. And when they do the DNA modification of E. coli bacteria, then that bacteria, instead of eating sugar, they can eat carbon dioxide from the air. And in that way, that carbon dioxide can transform into a propane gas.
Right.
And propane can be used for transportations and even for housing, gas, house heating and gas, cooking. So you see,
But aren't
people
plants
can
and
use nature.
trees doing the same thing?
Pardon?
Plants and trees doing
Yeah, there are a lot
absorbing
of
carbon.
yeah, they are using lot of techniques going on in different places, but these are not a large scale. These are still within the laboratory, and they found this is useful, but it will come gradually to the market. The people can use different things for this, and there are a lot of other things nature is helping to combat the climate change in indirect way as well. If we can discuss, like what you call biomimic.
Well, Dr. Kanan, we need to take a break right now, and when we
Yes.
come back, we'll go back to the very interesting discussion of biodiversity. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be back soon after this short break.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Just before the break, I was talking to Dr. Kanan Purakayastha, an environmentalist, a lead scientist with the British government. Sir, We were talking about COVID-19 and we have discussed a lot of points, but my question still remains unanswered. What lessons do we learn or have we learned from the last 2000 years of the history of pandemics?
Yes.
Is there anything to learn?
There's a thing actually, the main thing is we should realize that this sort of virus is available and it can affect us, and we have to prepare for it. Now, because these are all the difficult thing is sometimes when they mutate, then it becomes something new. Even in the flu case, I give a flu jab every year.
Right.
Now every year they change a little bit, these flu jab things, because they change it on the basis of the new strain. So they change all the time. So we have to adapt. Adaptation is important, and that adaptation is important not only for this disease, but it is also important in case of climate change.
Right.
So we have to adapt to this change, because we have seen the last 2000 years of history that the virus is coming and affecting, but we also need to do a lot of things, because now we are technologically more advanced, so we can do something. We can do the sequencing of the genetic sequencing very quickly to understand those sort of virus, because there are a lot of new virus will come, because this permafrost is melting. So when this permafrost in Arctic and different other places are melting, then what is happening from the ground, the 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 years old bone coming out. Bone.
Right.
It's human, animal, different bones are coming out. And when the bones are coming out, there are some pathogenic microorganism is there, and they are coming out. So when a glacier is receding, so there are new things are coming out from this 1,000 years old things. These are coming out to the surface, and human did not encounter those sort of things before, so they are not resistant to those sort of microorganisms. Therefore, it will be affected. So we have to think carefully, to plan ahead about these sort of things, because we have to open about this sort of thing so that you can quickly disseminate the informations, instead of because in my opinion, this pandemic issue should be declared beforehand. It should be declared on the end of December, instead of waiting such a long time when everything is spreading. Because
why do you think it was not declared? Political considerations or what?
Because one of the things probably that probably they're thinking they're not sure about this. That could be one reason, that they're not sure. But another thing could be not to create any panicking, the situation around the world. That could be another, things. But not sure also. But Chinese, they are aware of this, because the SARS, they have encountered SARS before in 2003. So they know more than anybody else about this, its genetic makeups and everything. They know more than anybody. And they also know that it is very much related to, it is also related to air pollution, because at that time, research was carried out and paper was published about this, the relationship between the air pollution in the atmosphere and the SARS virus. And they found that where there is a high level of API, that is air pollution index is higher, that means high level of particulate matter, PM10, PM2.5, these are higher. And this virus, the infection of the virus or transmission of virus is also higher. So this sort of knowledge is already, they know, because they did research at that time. So,
Dr. Kanan, have you given it a thought that there was no mention of Shanghai or Beijing, when they were talking about this COVID-19, the virus, it had not impacted on those two large cities. Any particular
Yeah,
reason for that?
that is probably, this the source is the localized, and
Right.
that's the reason some people's, this targeting, this microbiological laboratory, which is also available in Wuhan,
Yeah.
you know, and some science fiction writer already mentioned this before, long time ago, this in 1984 or 81 or something, Dan Carnage, he also mentioned this. So that is also, we can't rule out this, but we know these sort of things can come from animal to human. That is, we have the past, the evidence, and also the this 1350s history, 1350s history record, also showing that that a sheep is moving to Europe, rat is going, flies is going, and then virus is moving.
By the
So
way, what is your take on on the news or the stories that Wuhan was in contact with the entire world, but not with Shanghai and Beijing? So that is how Shanghai and Beijing escaped, and they did not have any uh, coronavirus incidents in those large cities. Have you had anything
yeah,
like that? What does your research say?
that is that is we're not sure about this, because there's a big city. There should be some cases there. If it is just like it is, as for example, in Dhaka, a lot of people with good coronavirus, but because they are not tested, so
Right.
they don't know about this. So there is. I'm not sure 100% that they have no cases and only cases is there. Because in Lancet paper identified some of the cases outside Wuhan.
Yep.
This coronavirus infected
But not in these two
cases.
large cities, Shanghai and
Yeah.
Beijing. For some
Okay,
for
that
some
will be
for some
some sort of,
cryptic reasons, it is not mentioned.
yeah. I don't know about this, exactly. So
Yeah.
that is
Yep. Yep. Yep.
one of the things, and biodiversity.
Yeah. Very
We
very
are
small
we are
number of
discussing.
people died in Shanghai and Beijing. Very small number. There were 2,000 persons were affected, and only 6 persons died. So that is total control.
Yeah, but there are a lot of other factors need to be considered, and one of these things is the immunity, the immune things. Is it something very healthy people living there, or I don't know, but but it has been found in Italy that where there is a higher level of air pollution, as an example in northern Italy, there was a high air pollution, and there is a high level of COVID, this
Right.
coronavirus cases there.
So
Whereas in the southern Italy, there is a lower level of air pollution and this lower number of coronavirus there. So there are other mediating factors
thank you.
uh, uh, in relation to the transmission of the coronavirus. The coronavirus is transmitting from human to human, but between human to human, there are other mediating factors playing a part. And air pollutant is one of the factors. But obviously, Shanghai, Beijing, they have got a high level of air pollution, because in China, according to Stanford University's research study, 1.1 million people die every year from the air pollution
Right.
in China.
Right.
And so in relation to the COVID, much lower number of people died in China,
Right.
because they know earlier, they contain this disease earlier. So that is one of the things, because it can spread, it can transmit from species to human, or from one species to another species. So the information should be disseminated very quickly, and there should be some mechanism in place.
Dr. Kanan, I know that there are so many researchers into this, but do you have any idea of
Yeah.
who are the worst hit communities, regions and countries on the shopping list of coronavirus? Who will
Yeah.
be the communities? They have identified that Bangladeshis will be the highest, they have been highest in this country, and then followed
Yes. Yes.
by Indians, Pakistanis, and
Yeah.
other ethnic minorities. But what is it?
Yes.
Is it just the protein or something else?
Yeah, there is something. One of the things I've seen, because there's a lot of people from BME people. So, they are always working in the front line.
Right.
So that is one of the factors. They are encountering the first. That is one of the things. The work setting, work environment, and also their personal. The circumstances as well, because there are a lot of people with heart, diabetics, and they've got a high level of, ACE protein they found in their bloodstream. That is also the case, But if we think about the whole things, in terms of climate change,
Right.
Then if we go to the climate change, now, then we need to think about this. The whole climate change in terms of our health issues, and we need to think about our mindset. What I call the intentional direction of our mindset, and that mindset should be towards optimism. It should be towards regeneration instead of
Right.
extraction, because
Right.
we are very good at extracting things from the nature, but not regenerating. So it should be towards regeneration instead of
Dr.
extraction.
Kanan, we are nearly at the end of this program.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, how soon or how long will it take for this virus pandemic to end? Do you have any research
Now,
done in that?
if you think about this HIV case, for example,
Or are we
2005 to
waiting for the
2012.
second wave? Or are we waiting for the
Pardon?
second wave?
Yes, it will take a long time, because it will come up with another form again. That is my personal view. It may come up with another form, another shape, and it will not go away. Because it's already spread, so it will remain, and vaccine will come definitely, because they will find out vaccine, and then it will change its strain. Different strain will come one after another. It is not something like that we will use a detergent and clean up our whole nature. It is not possible. So it will stay. It will come in a different way. But we need to think about. We need to think about how we will survive with this. Our
Yes.
new friend.
We have to learn to live with it.
But always think that we should keep our biodiversity, as much as possible intact, so that we're not disturbing this biodiversity and creating another. And it requires our transformative mindset, and that mindset is not what result to be achieved, rather a necessary input to achieve that result.
That's great. Thank you very much for your input, and thank you very much for your views. And we'll meet again sometime to discuss further on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you for being with us, dear viewers. It was a pleasure having you after such a long time. But whether it is the virus, whether it is biodiversity, whether it is World Environment Day, whatever, we hope that we have come out wiser, and we have to learn to live with our problems, and that is life. See you again next week, same time, same channel.